That's right, yeah.
But I'm going to go through it all, Grace, so it'll be fine.
Sorry, should I have my camera turned off and be on mute? Is that right?
No, you can go on mute, but you can leave your camera on, because then
Okay.
we'll spotlight.
No problem. I was just looking at the.
No, that's for the yeah, that's for the participants. That's fine.
That's fine.
Hello everyone, thanks for joining the call today. If you can just take a moment to read through some of our rules that we've got on the screen here. If you can keep your camera off throughout the duration of the call. Make sure you're on mute for the duration of the call, and when you're sending questions in to our host, can use appropriate language. When you are sending questions in, can you make sure if it's targeted towards one of our guest speakers that their name is in front, so we can kind of ask them in that third section of the call. We'll be getting going soon.
You want me to start, James, or?
Yeah, give it a go.
Okay. Hello everyone. Just to let you know, welcome to the LFC Foundation Careers Uncovered event today. As James has just gone through all the rules, you're okay with that. So just to introduce myself, I'm Jane. I'm the Employability Coordinator, and I'll be hosting the event today with the help of my colleagues from the Employability team. So we've got James, Rob and Gary. This is one of a number of events that we've held that are all free to access. And we'll also have a workshop to follow that you can register at about 1 o'clock today. Today's event is focused on International Women's Day, which will provide you with a unique insight into the pathway of leading experts and hopefully inspire you. As we're privileged to have 6 inspirational women on the call today to talk, it's going to be in 2 sections. The first section of the call will be a chance for our guest speakers to give an overview of their current job role and pathway. Okay, and then the second section will be the employability team will be asking some questions, and if we've got any questions from the participants that you've put in the chat. Okay, we'll hear from local entrepreneurs and professionals in the sports, charity and business sectors. Guest speakers will include Grace Harrison from Kitty's Laundrette. Grace is the development coordinator at Kitty's Laundrette, a work community cooperative in Liverpool, and she's led an organisational development at Kitty's since 2016, bringing a broad skill set, creativity and hands-on approach to the role. We also have Katie Ledbetter, the Liverpool Weaving Company. Kirsty founded the Liverpool Weaving Company in 2018 to facilitate her passion for woven textiles in the city she was raised in and loves. The design studio in Liverpool's very first and only micro mill, offering bespoke artisan cloth, and tweeds in short runs and beautiful homewares. As well as we have Rachael Knowles of Belly by Rachael. Belly by Rachael initially began as a relaxation program for mothers to be in 2017 and has now become an essential online provision for families who found themselves a victim of the pandemic and cut off from the usual pre and postnatal services. With us as well today is Dr. Daniel Greenberg, the Liverpool vet. She has been a vet for 20 years, born and raised and educated here in Liverpool, and she's always wanted to have her own clinic, and she's been nominated several times and won Vet of the Year in 2019. As well as Katie Ellis-Carrig, LFC Foundation Senior Manager, Communities and Wellbeing. She is an experienced manager of sport, health and community programmes, having worked in sport, leisure, local authority, charity roles. Her areas of interest and specialism include women in sport, community development, inclusion, bid writing, volunteer management, sport development and developing evaluation frameworks. And last but not least, Gemma Smith, LFC Foundation Senior Manager for Skills. And she has described herself as a northern girl with a big heart and even bigger dreams, a modern day supermum juggling family, career and a little thing called life. Okay, so without further ado, can we go over to you, Grace? Is that okay?
Yep, sure. Thank you very much for the introduction and for inviting me to speak with you all today. So as as you mentioned, I'm a founding board member and development coordinator at Kitty's Laundrette, which is just down the road from Anfield, from LFC Stadium. We have been open and trading with the public since May 2019. However, we were sort of several years developing prior to that, and I've been involved since the beginning. So we're a social enterprise. So that means we do business activities, but the money that we generate gets invested back into making good things happen in the local area, whether that's free events and activities that are aimed at kind of reducing social isolation and connecting people more with the neighbourhood, or learning new skills, making friends. But we also do stuff around environmental things with our laundry processes and things like that. So my educational background isn't a lot, really. I don't have a degree, but I guess I would say that my background is like in the arts. I did a foundation diploma in art and design, and then kind of worked in art projects for the years following that. And I was in like a freelance capacity working on different projects, but I also worked in bars and had a cleaning job, and did whatever I could to kind of keep the money coming in whilst working in the arts, which sometimes in the beginning is not particularly well paid. And then I began predominantly working on the laundrette in a paid capacity in 2018. So I'm 31 years old now, so I've kind of spent like most of my 20s working in the arts, and a good chunk of that working on this laundrette project. And I guess the potential barriers that I face to kind of doing this career path, I guess one of the things is that it's not a very straightforward career path. There's no kind of formula for this amount of study and this amount of training. You really have to kind of follow your nose and take opportunities where they arise, and find people that are going to support you in what you want to achieve. And sometimes that can be quite disorientating and quite hard to know if the decisions that you're making are the good ones. But I think if you kind of like have a strong set of guiding principles about what it is that you'd like to achieve, and then you look for support from good people, I think that those kind of barriers can be overcome. I do also think that sometimes my age and my gender was a barrier. Sometimes literally had people saying things like, "How old are you?" when I would have a strong opinion about something. And so I guess just not letting that put you off, and surround yourself with people who are going to tell you that you do have something to offer, and your opinions are valuable. Yeah, I think that was all the questions. Kind of whizzed through them there, but.
Oh, thank you very much for that, Grace. It's good to hear that you've got like a wide, broad set of skills from different areas as well, like from the arts that you've transferred over. So that's lovely to hear. Okay, we'll wait till after for any further questions, if that's okay. Okay. If Kirsty, if you'd like to go next, is that okay?
Yeah, thank you. Hi there. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I was thrilled to be asked to be involved with this, so thank you for the opportunity. So I'm Kirsty. My business is called the Liverpool Weaving Company, and I'm a textile designer and a commission weaver. So a lot of people don't know much about woven textiles. It's a bit of a niche craft, and also, unfortunately, a craft that is dying a little bit throughout Great Britain. There used to be a lot of weaving in Britain, 100 odd years ago, but weaving's now become quite a niche craft. So I'm really interested in reviving and sustaining that craft. So I kind of say when I talk about my business that I've got A, B, and C when it comes to my business. So A is the commission weaving aspect of my business. So I work with a plethora of people, like anything from alpaca farmers or people with rare sheep breeds, for instance, right up until, you know, kind of high-end fashion, and I'll commission weave fabric for those companies. So that's A of my company. B are my workshops. I teach weaving as well. So I teach weaving to the public, and I've also gone into universities and schools before as well, which is something I really love because it means I can distribute my woven knowledge out to people and get people interested in something I'm really passionate about. So the workshop aspect of my business is really important to me. And I do the workshops not just in the Liverpool area, but I've started to expand to places like Yorkshire, Lancashire, North Wales, and going a little bit further afield. It's probably one thing that COVID's prevented, but I've kind of found ways to work around that with the you know, the growth of calls like Zoom, like we're doing today. So that's been a bit of a kind of hurdle so far, you know, in the kind of last year or so. But that's something that, like I said, I found, you know, new ways of working and trying to turn a negative into, you know, more of a positive. And C is something that I've not quite started just yet. I've got one loom, so I've got one piece of equipment in which I can weave my fabrics on. So usually I'm commission weaving and I'm creating products for other brands and other clients. So I'm not getting as much time to use my loom to explore my own creative pathways. So I very rarely weave things for me. I'm always often weaving things for other people. So that part of my business is something that I've really started to grow over maybe the last 6 months. And that is the idea of creating as authentic as it can be, but a true Liverpool product, a true Merseyside product. So trying to create products with provenance and traceability. I've started to work on a range of throws, so a range of blankets, and within that the fabric obviously has been woven by me. I'm trying to locally source as much as I can. So my blanket stitched edges are done by an embroiderer who's based in Mossley Hill. And the leather labels on my products, the etched leather labels on my products, are made by a gentleman who is a leather worker. He used to be based in the studio next door to me at Make North Docks. So I'm trying as far as I can. The only thing that is a little bit more so of a problem at the moment is trying to find yarn to weave with. I'm currently using Shetland wool because I used to live in Shetland and I've got a lot of connections with what Shetland means to me, but trying to find sheep breeds within the Liverpool area has been something that I found a little bit hard in this journey. But that's something that I'm looking at this year. So moving into the idea of creating that true, you know, Merseyside product. So I started my career, I started the Liverpool Weaving Company actually in 2018, but I started my weaving career in 2012. I graduated from Chelsea School of Arts in 2012. And I worked freelance in London for quite a while, and I got really interested in tartans and tweeds. After doing a lot of freelance work with various brands around Kings Road, etc., I wanted to find more out about tweeds and tartans, but from the actual source. So that idea of a traceable product's always been really important to me. So I took a job opportunity to work in a tweed and tartan mill in Aberdeenshire. So I moved to Aberdeen. And then after working there for a while, I think I thought maybe that Aberdeen wasn't north enough, and I decided to move to the Shetland Islands. So I moved to the Shetland Islands about six years ago and lived there. I co-owned a tweed mill with an ex-business partner, and that was a really successful journey into the idea of kind of the same notion what I've discussed before: traceability, getting local people involved with local craft. So after being in Shetland was a completely beautiful place to live, and very, very rural. I got a little bit homesick after a while and decided to take the knowledge and the skills and that passion that I'd facilitated in Shetland, and decided to bring it back to Liverpool and set up the Liverpool Weaving Company here at home, and so I can do what I love but also be near the people I care about too. So that's a little bit about my business.
Oh, thank you very much for that, Kirsty. That was great. Really interesting that you've taken inspiration from other areas as well that you've been. That's good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. If that's okay, can we go to you now, Rachel? Can you tell us about your pathway and journey, please?
Be handy if I took myself off mute, wouldn't it? So I'm Rachael. Thank you very much for asking us as well to come on. I was really, really surprised and honoured when you contacted us. So thank you. So like Jane was telling you guys, Belly by Rachael was actually just initially a relaxation programme for prenatal women, which started in 2017. But this past year, it's become a vital online provision really in Liverpool for not just women but families as well, that have found themselves victim of the pandemic. So we are a full pre and postnatal service now, so we deliver fitness, and it's 12, I think we do 12 live sessions a week now, but we've also got like a host of a lot of library content that we're working on as well that our members can access via Vimeo. But we have created a platform and access to experts and specialists in the area as well. So women's health physiotherapists, musculoskeletal physiotherapists, mental health nurses, midwives. We're just trying to really build out a group of people really that our members can access freely, because at the moment it's become really difficult, especially for women. It was actually hit the news this weekend about women being able to access maternity support, and it's becoming really hard for people. And it's really close to me as well, because I'm actually a pandemic mum as well. So I had my second daughter during the first lockdown, when we went into lockdown. So she was born 1st of August. So it really is vital to me that I can help people. My background couldn't be more different. So I was really, really creative in school, and I loved media studies and art, but I didn't really apply myself very well. I was the chatty girl, if you like. So GCSE wise, I didn't come off very well. I barely scraped it to get to A level, but carried on that media path through my A levels. I went to uni, which if I was to go back now, I probably wouldn't have gone down that path. I'm a bit of a creature of habit. So I'd seen my sister go to uni and I thought, yeah, I'll do that. I'll go to uni. So I went and studied media. And then work-wise, I carried on down that path again. So I ended up working for Radio City when I was about 18. I was on a team that they call the ground crew, and we used to bring all like the marketing initiatives to life, if you like. And I used to work quite closely with their marketing team. So I used to do like apprenticeship work with them over the summer holidays when I was out of uni and stuff. And I actually met like a well-known, some of you might have heard of Lisa Pearson. She's quite a well-known marketing queen in Liverpool. So she headed up marketing at Radio City for a while, and now she's over at Arriva Travel. And she was so inspiring that she's the reason why I kept on that path for most of my 20s, really. So I started my career at the Hilton, where I was for a few years initially in sales, and then I moved on to Grosvenor and Thistle hotels, and then I spent 6 years, about 6 years as head of brand at a national restaurant chain. So like I said, it was very, very different to what I do now, because I'm in fitness. But in 2016, I became pregnant with my first daughter, Bobby, and it was then that I was like fascinated with just the physiology of birth and women's bodies. And I did like so much reading and studying while I was pregnant. And I just fell in love with hypnobirthing. So I decided, I'll take a little course on the side, and I could do it as a hobby alongside my marketing job. But then I took this really hasty decision during my maternity leave not to go back to marketing, which on reflection, it was a crazy time in my life, and I probably wouldn't recommend doing it like that, but it was all worth it. And I've always been really persistent when it comes to work. So that's when Hip Mama was born, which was originally our brand name, but everyone kept calling us Hype Mama, and it really annoyed me. So I rebranded to Belly. I'm like, it's Hip Mama, and people are like, what's this Hype Mama? And I was like, oh, I need to change this name, it's driving me mad. But you know, it was so tough starting from scratch. That was a real big challenge, because I've been so used to being quite a significant part of the business that I was in, and as a woman I'd really worked hard to get to that position. So yeah, it was really, really tough. I ended up renting this tiny little studio space on Lark Lane in South Liverpool, and sometimes like one person would turn up to one of my classes and I'd think, this is just wounding, but I just carried on, didn't really stop. And then I used to give a cut of what I would take from members joining us, and pay other fitness trainers in the city to come in and deliver that side of things to the mums that I was training. The breathing side too, they come in and do Pilates and different fitness classes. And health and fitness has always been a massive interest to me. Like, I've always kept myself in good shape and really looked after myself. So it was, my husband used to say to me, you know, you love doing this, why are you paying other people to come in when you could do it yourself? You could go and train yourself and deliver the full program to these mums. And I've always, that's one sort of fall down of mine, I undersell myself and put myself down a little bit. And I was like, I'm too old, I've got a baby, I can't go and train and personal training, and this is science. And he was like, you can, if you apply yourself, you can. So I did, I went and did it, and naively I thought I'd just be able to go in and train pre and postnatal women, but you can't. You need to learn about the anatomy of the body as it is, and then go on to do your pre and postnatal. So it was a good 2 years of learning and going to different courses. I was doing it while I worked on the side, and had Bobby, who at the time was only 18 months old, and she's nearly 4 now. So I got all my qualifications. I worked with general clients for about 2 years, and then I started bringing in the prenatal and the postnatal clients on the fitness side, and that's when Belly was born. So this was 2019, and since then we've been running at about 30 clients a month, which to me is amazing. Like, I was so touched that people were putting their trust in coming to me and letting me train them through this huge part of their life. And then the pandemic hit last year, and that's when everything changed. I was pregnant, and I was working on the side as well, so I was still doing like marketing work, and I was furloughed. So I was like, this is the scariest thing ever. I'm pregnant, I'm furloughed, I've got this little business that I'm trying to run. So I just threw everything that I had into the business. And then I took about 6 weeks maternity leave when Stevie was born, because all of a sudden we just had this influx of women coming to us because they were looking for the support. So now we're running, as of today, we've got 182 members sitting on Belly, which is just phenomenal. We don't sleep really, but that's okay. We're 24/7 for these women at the moment, and they really do lean on us for the support. But it makes me buzz. Like, every night that I go to bed, I think 180 odd women trusting me. This is crazy, but I believe in what we're doing, and it does mean everything to me and my team. So yeah, the hardest part about Belly's probably been building it up and getting to where we are now. You know, I look back to 2017 when we started, and some days I would wake up and think this is just all pointless and I should just be focusing on the kids, but I kept going. So yeah, it's been a real juggle, and challenges that we've been facing, which was one of the questions, was probably obviously acquiring the knowledge and trying to be at the top of what we're doing. You know, if people are looking for pre and postnatal training, I want them to look at us. So I want to make sure that we've got the best knowledge and we've got the best qualifications around us. So it used to be me, and now I've got a team of, there's 3 of us. So I make sure that I'm putting them through the same training that I went through as well, to make sure that we've all got those qualifications and the right insurance under our belt. So I suppose accessing funding for things like that has been really hard. I've been lucky to get funding for some of the training, but then a lot of it has been self-funded as well. So yeah, time and finances has been a really tough one. But yeah, hopefully that gives you an overview of what we've been up to.
Oh, thanks, Rachel. That's quite phenomenal, really, that you've had to do so much adaptation during a really tough time as well. And it's come from a hobby. You know, it started off as just something that you really enjoyed. So thank you very much for telling us your story.
Thank you.
If we can go over now to Danielle, please, Dr. Danielle Greenberg, please.
Hello.
Danielle. Hiya.
Is it possible? Can I just go after somebody else? I'm in the middle of doing something. I'm so sorry.
No problem. I'll speak to you in a sec. Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Hiya, Katie. Would you be able to step in?
Yeah, of course. I can see Danielle in the background. I'm intrigued. I want to know what she's doing.
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Absolutely fascinating to hear everyone's different stories. I'm going to give you a quick lowdown of sort of how I got to where I am today at LSE at the foundation. So I started my career back, I suppose, probably when I was 16, really. So I've always been massively passionate about sport. And I did my level 1 football coaching when I was 16. Me and my friend were the only girls on the training, on the course. And it was sort of the first time I'd really experienced sport being a bit of a man's world, because I'd always participated in sport at school and played netball, went horse riding, sort of did everything, every sport possible. And at school, I didn't feel like there was many barriers, and I do hate the word barrier, so I'm going to try not to use it in the next sort of 10 minutes. But that was my first insight really into, okay, this is an experience that's different for me, and there aren't any girls here, so I really want to be part of this. I did my gym instructor's qualification, and I worked as a leisure attendant for a couple of years while I did my A-levels, and then decided to do sports science with coaching at Sheffield Hallam. And at the time, I was toying with, do I want to be a physio? Do I want to be a journalist? Because it was all the jobs that I could think of that were related to sport. But when I was sort of 18, in my head, I wanted to work in elite sport. So I went to do sports science. And after the first semester, I was like, no, this isn't for me. I don't really care how fast people run and whether they're going to make it or not as an elite sports person. I really want to help people to experience the opportunities that I've had playing sport and being physically active. So I followed my nose a little bit, really. And when I finished my degree, I went back home to York, where I'm from, and started a role as a physical activity coordinator, which is by far one of the best jobs I've ever had, because I got to take old people on walks, and we did back to netball, and we started running groups, and really got into the heart of the community to try and understand why people might not want to be physically active, what prevents people, but also, more importantly, what motivates people. And during that role, I did various qualifications in the exercise sector around exercise referral. And then I did my level 4 exercise referral specialism in cancer rehab. And I spent the next couple of years working specifically on health referral programs, setting up a new one in York, supporting people with all different long-term health conditions. And it was a fantastic job, because it really made me realise that I'd made the right decision, and that, you know, supporting people who had a stroke to help them walk and things. And obviously that wasn't just me that did that. There's a lot of people at the hospital, the physio teams, but to see people get back on their feet and get better after, you know, really quite serious illnesses was really sort of cemented why I was doing what I was doing. At the time, it was approaching London 2012, and I'd spent a couple of years doing this job, and I wanted something different. So I saw a job online and went to London to do an interview for a role which was Women and Girls Activator. So it was funded by Sport England, and it was all about trying to engage women in sport. So little old me didn't ever think I'd want to move to London, went down to my interview and got the job. And after the interview, I remember walking from Mile End, which is just near Stratford by the Olympic Stadium, and walking to the Olympic Park and like peering through the gates of the Olympic Stadium and thinking, God, not only am I moving here, but I'm moving here in a year when we've got the Olympics. So yeah, so I went down to London, and the next couple of years were really eye-opening for me and really made me understand more about diversity and inclusion, and how actually I've been so lucky in my life so far, because there was no real barriers for me to participate in sport. But my role was very focused around Muslim women, and it was all about how do we engage women who potentially their culture or their religion might have impacted on how they would be more active. So for a lot of you might not be aware, but for some cultures, people don't see women should be exercising with men. So we had to do things like put up blinds in leisure centres and run specific sessions behind closed doors. And I learned a lot about sort of, again, using the word barriers, but it's more about how do you change an environment to make it accessible for everyone. So that was really an interesting role, and something that sort of changed my perception on how we think about making sport accessible. And then at the same time, I did my master's in health and wellbeing, and I did my dissertation on had London 2012 impacted the lives of women in East London. And the feedback was actually quite outstanding, because for me, I thought the Olympics is everything, and if you live around the corner, then surely it's going to change. But for actually all the women that I interviewed, it didn't really mean anything. They couldn't see the difference between role models and understanding about elite sport. For them, sport and physical activity was just something that you should do, but they probably didn't have time to do it, and they didn't know enough about it to help get their kids more engaged in PEing things. So that again brought me right back to, well, why am I doing this job? Because actually I do want to have a bigger impact, and just because I'm sporty doesn't mean that other people are. So again, all these little things making me think about inclusion and how we can be, make a better offer for people. So my role changed, and I continued to work for GLL, who are a social enterprise running leisure centres across the UK. And I got a national role where I was supporting all different people and creating and doing all different funding bids and trying to basically make the leisure industry more accessible for everyone. I also did my leadership diploma at the time, and that was really good because I got to do that with people outside of the sector. And it was great to hear different people's experiences again in various roles, because I think sometimes in the sports sector we're just very sporty, we don't always think outside the box. And then luckily I decided again to have a little change, and me and my husband moved to Liverpool, and that's when I joined LFC and joined the foundation. And my first real insight into working in football, and again trying to shape the foundation and work with lots of other different football clubs to really embed and instill how important it is for us all to be physically active, but making sure that, once again for me, that option is there for everyone. And I just wanted to end with a few examples, and I said I wouldn't use the word barriers, but some of the things that I've come across in my career, I'll just give you a few quotes. So I was in a meeting once and we were talking about netball being at the Copper Box Arena in London, and someone in my team at the time, obviously male, said, I'll come watch the netball, it's just a crap basketball, but at least they wear short skirts. Another meeting I've been in, are you the one taking the minutes? No, actually I'm leading the meeting. In various practical sessions that I've been involved with over the years, quite often I'm guessing because you're a woman, you won't be joining in the practical session. I'm the one with my trainers on first, by the way. And then this one for me was a couple of years ago. So I'd gone on a walk with the previous group of people that I used to work with, including the managing director, and we were in Wales and we were doing an 18-mile walk. And at the end, I was at the front, which was quite outstanding because I don't walk very fast. And I was chatting to the managing director and some of the other they're all male senior managers at the front. And we got to the end of the walk and we went into this pub, and the managing director said, right, well done lads, anyone want a pint? And deliberately turned his back to me and just started chatting to the boys. So I think what I wanted to get from that is that we are massively progressing in the sports sector around how we have women in senior roles, but it's still embedded somewhere that we're second-class citizens and that it's still a male world. And there's so many great examples of things that are progressing, from women featuring in broadcasting and punditry, but I do think from the whole sort of the way that the sports sector is, it's still sort of quite laddie behaviour, and I just wanted to give some of those examples to explain what I've had to overcome over my career.
Thanks, Casey, that was great. I think it's really important to highlight some of them things that still need to change in the sector as well, right across the board in work today. So thank you very much for that. I'm not sure if we've got a chance, we can go back to Danielle, if she's okay. You all right to talk now, Danielle, or would you prefer to give a bit longer?
No, go on, let's do it now. I think we'll be all right. Sorry, I'm so sorry about this. The Monday morning madness.
No worries.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you for your amazing stories. I've been listening to them while I've been working. You're all like doing amazing stuff. Thank you for inviting me also. I'm not sure I'm allowed to take my mask off. So my current role is, I'm primarily a vet, and I have set up the Liverpool, you can see that, the Liverpool Vets. I think it's the first new independent veterinary practice in the city for about 20 years. It's the only female-led independent practice that has been started from scratch, as far as I'm aware. So I spend most of my time being a vet. I'm also rapidly learning to do management and leadership, but everything really, from mopping the floor, making cups of tea. I think when all the girls here will know, if you start a business from scratch, you've got to be able to do every little bit, and that's what we do, everything that needs to be done. Education, I went to King David in Childwall. I was lucky enough to go to Oxford University to do history, which is a bit of a long story because I wasn't actually very good at science. I wasn't very good at school, full stop. I then ended up going to university in America for a little bit, and eventually managed to get myself a place at Liverpool Vet School. In fact, when I got there, the admissions guy said, thank God I won't be getting emails and letters from you anymore. But I think the most important lessons that I have learned, and it sounds a bit corny, in university of life. Other roles that I've had other than being a vet, I've been a horse riding teacher, I've been a groom. I was a mystery phone call shopper at veterinary practices when I wasn't very well for a while and I couldn't work. But actually, like, the only thing really I've ever wanted to and I've ever done is be a vet, and I've been a vet for 22 years. Barriers, some of my own making, I would say. Loving sport, not concentrating on my schoolwork. Teachers who said that I would never get to be a vet because I wasn't a very good pupil at school. Barriers to setting up this business, parental guilt, I guess, having a daughter, being a single parent, not wanting to take the time away from looking after her and investing in the business. Fear, worrying that I wouldn't be able to cope, that I wouldn't be able to cope financially, setting up the business. So lots and lots of self-doubt, lots of worry, sleepless nights, and then practicalities. I couldn't find anybody to lend me any money to set up the practice. I had sold my house and moved in with my parents. I'm still there, and trying to find a shop that I could afford and that was suitable. So some barriers of my own making, some hurdles thrown along the way by other people saying I couldn't make it, and some physical barriers, trying to get money and trying to find a shop. But I guess just dogged determination has got me here today. and I'm very happy to be here.
Well, thank you very much, Danielle. That's brilliant, and it's lovely to see you all kitted out and busy while we're doing the videos. That's great. Thank you very much for taking the time to do this today. If you're all right, we'll go last but not least, we'll go over to you, Gemma. Is that okay?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. So I'm Gemma. So I'm the Senior Manager for Skills in the LFC Foundation. I work alongside she's formerly known as my partner in crime, which is Katie, who obviously just spoke a couple of minutes ago. So yeah, we're an all-female exec team reporting into our CEO. So I think that's one highlight to put on there, that it's the first time the foundation's seen that. So great stuff. So I've been here 10 years now this year. So a bit of a long in the tooth in terms of the foundation. But similar to the others, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about how I got to where I am now. So I grew up in Manchester. You could hide the booze. I'm not a Man United or Man City fan, so no panic there. Grew up in Manchester, and I went to an underperforming school, and probably unlike when Katie said about the barriers, there was a lot of barriers in my school. It was predominantly a football town, football and rugby, and if you were a female that didn't play netball or hockey, really sport wasn't for you. But I really liked sport, and I was really good at netball. I played at Greater Manchester for the county, but that was kind of it. That's all I kind of had. So what the option was, my parents were saying, go to university, but leave here and don't come back, kicking me out. Leave and make things better for yourself, because where we grew up, it wasn't great. So I went to John Moore's nearly 18 years ago. Said that quietly, this year, and I studied sport development with PE, and it was brilliant because genuinely every single day, 9 to 5, we played sport, learned about sport, watched sport, just you name it, we did it, and I got to play everything. I got to play everything that I'd never done before. I still don't own a pair of football boots, and I never have, and it was the one subject at university that I didn't take part in. I'm just not, it's not for me. I'm coordinated from the waist up, down not so much. So after university, I felt really lucky that I walked straight into my first job. I was a sports development officer for a small charity with quite a bit of money, and we led projects for under-deprived families. So I did that for a couple of years, and then I got kind of what I saw was like my big break into the kind of sporting kind of physical activity world when I got a job for Liverpool City Council. And I worked on a huge strategy, the Liverpool physical activity strategy, and I was one of the kind of area coordinators, and I looked after East Liverpool, which obviously Anfield, where the football club sits in, that was part of my kind of area. I loved that. The kind of remit was getting people physically active more often, and worked hard with a really good team of people, and got to work in the communities that I'd never even knew existed. I mean, coming from a small part of Manchester to a huge city, I know Manchester's bigger than Liverpool, but coming to kind of to see it in a city centre and see what that city life is like, unbelievable. And so as you can imagine, I didn't leave Liverpool, so I moved here 18 years ago, and I haven't left. And this is definitely my home now. And then 10 years ago, my contract ended with the council, and I knew I still wanted to work in sport, and I saw the job at LFC. It was in the community department, but LFC Foundation, and I joined, and I was one of very few girls in the department, and I came in and I was different to all the rest because I don't have a Scouse accent. I had quite a northern accent, actually, a lot more northern than it is now. I'm dumbing it down a bit for you, just so you can, I'm kind of putting the Scouse through. And I was a bit different, and I'd been to university and I'd learned quite a lot of things, and the team were amazing, and spent the last 10 years, enjoying life. It's the best job. I think I used a quote the other day on a chat with a school that if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life, and I genuinely feel so kind of honoured and proud to be doing this job. The kind of biggest, I say barrier, it's not a barrier, that's really bad. The biggest kind of stumbling block or thing that I faced was when I left work to have a child. So during my time here, that's not about my employers, by the way. During my time here, I decided to have a baby. So went off and had my maternity leave. Maternity leave wasn't for me. I'm too active. I didn't have any other friends who had babies. I had to kind of force myself to make friends. It was really isolated. It was hard work. And if one had known people like Rachael, who I could have got involved with. I didn't have anything like that. I had one baby group where I've met some fantastic friends from there, but walking in alone when you've had a baby and you've got no confidence, it is hard work. Coming back to work was great. I came back full time, and that's when the kind of judgment started. People saying, oh, you're going back to work full time, who will look after your child? Well, I'm sure that's why nurseries were invented. And I did, yeah, came back full time, and I faced a lot of people who I thought were good friends saying, oh, you're working full time, who makes your child's dinner? Who feeds your husband? And it's like, he feeds himself. He doesn't, you know, thanks, he feeds me. So yeah, the biggest thing for me has been having a child. She's not a barrier, she's amazing, and she's a little mini me, and she is the reason why I suppose I get up every day and do what I do, so that we can kind of carve a path for kind of the younger female generation. So that they, sorry, my dog's now barking, just I don't know why. So yeah, that's why everything I do for my daughter, and yeah, I feel really kind of privileged to be in a position where I get to work alongside phenomenal people and phenomenal women. And yeah, I'm really happy, and I'm really glad that, what a great day to have this chat on International Women's Day. I think it's fantastic. This is amazing, and thank you to everyone else who spoke, by the way. I wrote everyone's name down. I was like, right, I'm getting in touch with them. I don't know why, but you're just phenomenal. So yeah, is that all right, Jane?
That is great. Thank you very much. Again, Gemma, a great, you know, different type of career path that you've been telling everyone, and it's lovely to hear. I'd just like to say a huge thank you to everyone who's taken part in today's event. Hopefully we'll have some questions from the team now, if you'd like to, if that's all right with everyone to answer. Okay.
Hello everyone, sorry, I was struggling to get off mute then. I think, Gemma, you just mentioned that it's an International Women's Day, and we've really enjoyed listening to everybody's stories and your achievements. But I'm just wondering if two of you could maybe explain why it's important that we celebrate International Women's Day, or what it means to you personally. So that's to whoever wants to sort of run with the question first.
Katie will definitely speak.
I'm happy to go first. Go on.
Thank you, Katie.
I think it was funny actually. I was listening to the radio earlier, and Greg James was playing on Radio 1 that he does like a 10-minute takeover, and this today was a women's special, and there were some banging tunes, by the way. But he made a really good point. He said every day should be about gender equality, and every day should be about making people think differently, but also inclusively. But it's important to have a day which is just focused on that, so that we can all take a moment to see what we can do better and what we've done really well. Because I think today is actually a celebration of women and all the amazing things that we've done. And we think about, I always think today about the suffragettes, and imagine what life was like 100 years ago when we couldn't even vote. You know, in some countries you still can't vote. In some countries women aren't allowed to go to watch sport. And I think that's why we have International Women's Day, because I feel in a really privileged position to do the job that I do and live the life that I've got. But for a lot of people, a lot of women, it's not like that. And that's why we need days like today.
Brilliant. Thank you, Katie. Anybody else?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think that's really important. And just kind of touching on what Gemma earlier mentioned as well. And my daughter was 5 months old this time last March, and I was already quite anxious about getting back into that role, being self-employed, as a lot of women, you know, a lot of people in this call know, it's tough as it is. And I decided to put my daughter in nursery part-time so I could get back to my job basically, and get back to, you know, bring in some cash in, and, you know, also to be a positive role model for her, and her seeing, you know, as she grows up, you know, what I'm doing is something that I'm passionate about and that drives me. And I think Women's Day, it's so important, because there's a lot of assumptions and there's a lot of stereotypes that surround the matriarchal roles that women should and shouldn't do in the home. And I think getting back to work, and, you know, who's going to look after your child, and who's going to cook, and who's going to do this and that, I think that those stereotypes are they're important to overcome. And I think yeah, touching on what Gemma was saying, it's important for us to do what we want to do and move forwards, and have you know, have careers, and, you know, do everything that, you know, that you want to be able to do with yourself, and not worry about assumptions of what other people think you should and shouldn't do. So I think Women's Day is certainly important, just to, you know, everyone deserves to be an equal to one another, whether it's race, religion, you know, any type of assumption that people have and stereotypes. It's important to overcome them, and that's why today is important.
Brilliant, thank you, Kirsty. We have got a couple of questions coming in from the chat box from the participants watching. So one of the questions is, what advice would you give to a younger self, so your younger self? And that's directed to Grace, Kirsty, Rachel, and Danielle. So what advice would you give to your younger self? So we go to Grace, if that's okay.
I think I'd give some advice that, you know, don't worry too much if you're not, you know, if school's not necessarily the environment that you feel like you learn really comfortably in. You know, traditional schooling does often you know, fit well with certain kind of people, but don't necessarily meet everybody's needs in terms of the ways that you learn and the ways that you want to work. Because I guess once you get out of school, there is lots of different ways that you can approach learning, and that you can you know, pursue your interests. And so I guess I'd say don't be disheartened if school isn't necessarily the environment that you're thriving in. Like, you will find a different environment to thrive in.
Thank you, Grace. Thank you. Kirsty?
I think I probably tell 16-year-old me that it was worth it. All of the, you know, moving away from home at the young age that I did, that homesick feeling, feeling like I was studying and doing more academic things, when I felt like at that time, when you're young, you feel like everyone else is out and enjoying themselves and having a good time, and that you're missing out. And I think just to persevere, I think perseverance is just important if you're passionate about something. I've always wanted to run my own business, so just I suppose the idea to stay focused, and that hard work pays off. So I think that I definitely tell myself that it was worth it, and to keep on going. If you're passionate about something, to stick with it and keep moving on.
Brilliant, that's great advice. Just stick to your lane. Rachel? Sorry, Rachel, you're just on mute still.
I'm rubbish at this. When I logged in, I don't do technology or anything. So yeah, I remember getting my GCSEs actually, and well, I didn't get my GCSEs. So when I picked up the results, I was 16, and they were awful, and I was sobbing in the hallway with my mum, like my life had ended, because I'd seen other people in my family get all their qualifications and go to uni, and they did really well. And I think it's drummed into you a bit too much. It certainly was when I was 16 anyway, that you had to be academic and you had to go to uni and you had to achieve that particular path. So I think, you know, if it's not for you and you're not academic at the time, don't panic, because I was hell-bent that I had to decide then what I wanted to do. And I spent most of my 20s in marketing and sales. And then now it couldn't be more different. Like, I didn't find what I was really passionate about until I was 29, and I'm 34 in 2 months, and I'm nowhere near done. Definitely not. Like, I'm still learning. So I think it's like you learn your whole life. It doesn't end when you're 16, when you get those GCSEs. Yeah,
you're dead right. Yeah, it doesn't define you. And Danielle, I don't know if you're busy, or you're there. Right, no worries. We'll move on then. Just one more question, just conscious of time. I don't know if we've got any more from participants, but just a question for everybody really. I don't think you've got a view on this, but what's the one thing that we can all do, regardless of your position or your gender, that we can all do to have a positive impact on gender equality? What's the one thing that everybody could do, or a piece of advice that you could give people to support gender equality? Maybe if I just work your way around the screen, it would start with you, Gemma, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine. Go it. Just well, it's hard, isn't it? Because there's probably a lot we could all do. You know, everybody included. I'd say listen. I think that one of the biggest things that it's a bugbear is when people try and tell you that you're doing something wrong or you're doing something that they wouldn't do. And it's like, well, until you've walked in my shoes, you don't know how that feels. And, you know, even life as a mum, it's different for every single parent. I'm sure Rachel's come across that in her job. Every single instance as being a parent is different to the other. And I think if you listen to people and you listen to the struggles they've been through, the positives, the negatives, everything, if you listen, it'll give you a greater understanding. And that way then I think you'd make, we shouldn't judge, but you'd make a better judgment about a person if you just listen. And if you listen to everybody's struggles and everybody's barriers, but everyone's positives and everybody's strengths, I think the world will be a much better place, and it'll be a much nicer place, because I think we'll just take into consideration that one person's challenges is nowhere like the other person's, and we're all different, and we're meant to be, aren't we? Because that's what makes us interesting. So yeah, listening. I think if we all listened more, it'd be better.
Yeah, I totally agree, Gemma. Thank you. And Grace?
I'd agree with what Gemma was saying, that there's kind of so much we could do, really. I guess I could say that in our case, we do think a lot about how we create our job roles so that they're as accessible as possible for different kinds of people, and a lot of that does relate to barriers that women face into employment. So we employ 7 people, and the majority of them are women who either have caring roles for older parents or young children, and need work that's flexible and that maybe starts after schools and open, and the shifts finish before schools close, or you know, different kinds of things, only working on weekends, whatever it could be. And so we, as an employer, we try to think a lot about like really think about that process from recruitment, like how do we do recruitment in an accessible way, but also how do we shape the job roles and the processes within the business to really enable those people to be included. Because it's one thing to sort of say, oh, it's really inclusive, but if the structures that are in place don't actually let people participate, then that doesn't really mean anything. So and that's, you know, that's for women, but also for wider barriers that people might face.
Brilliant advice. Just being mindful and circumstances. That's wonderful. And Katie?
Really good answers there, put me on the spot. No, I think be an ally. So I gave that example earlier of when I went to a meeting and someone asked me if I was taking the minutes. It was actually male colleagues in the room who said, well, no, actually, she's my boss. And I think it's really important for other people to sound out situations where, you know, it's not equal, because sometimes you feel like it's just you on a little soapbox going, no, actually, don't forget about the women, but it's great when other people support. And also be kind. I think in all walks of life, it's important to be kind to each other, and that actually has a big impact on everyone.
Thank you, Katie. Yeah, and I've just realised I don't know how to spell out ally. I wrote ally, so I'll have to look at that. Moving on to Kirsty.
Yeah, I think being an ally very important, and I think also I mean, I think in essence, most people do judge situations, and they do judge like without even you often subconsciously, you know, judge situations, but just to try and be as open-minded as possible. And I think that idea of being an ally is really important. And also to, you know, opinions are always subjective, and to understand what other people feel, even though it may not be your opinion. I read an article a while ago, and one of the statements in it was to try and, after having a debate or a conversation, to try and think about, like the quote was, I haven't thought about it like that. So to try and understand other people's perspectives, even though it may not be yours, and trying to, you know, come up with a way in which we can accept everyone's views, even though they're not necessarily ours. And I think having that notion, not just with Women's Day, but other, you know, other aspects of life where we can have different opinions and different judgments, I think that's really important too.
Absolutely, yeah. And Rachel?
Yeah, I think I work in a really, it's very 100% female, the environment I work in at the moment, because it's all my trainers are female and all my members are female. So I think we're really mindful at Belly about sort of getting partners involved as well, and making sure that it's all very shared, because it's quite a sensitive area as well, pre and postnatal. Obviously it massively affects a woman, but it affects men as well. And we actually did a really good Q&A the other week about how having a child has this massive impact on women, but affecting men as well. So we were talking a lot about sharing at home, not just in the workplace, because everything that we're doing at the moment is very much home based. It's like, for myself, everything that we're doing, me and my husband, like, he's upstairs working at the moment, I'm downstairs working, the baby's somewhere, I don't actually know where she is at the moment. she gets moved around different places, but it's all about sort of demonstrating as well to our kids that we share as much as we can, whether it's work or household things at the moment as well. Yeah, so sharing, listening.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you very much. And we've lost Danielle. She's obviously saving lives or doing something really, really important. But yeah, great answers. Obviously, we're very conscious about time. So what we're going to do now, we've got a workshop later on this afternoon. So we're probably going to explore some of the things that you've talked about there. And I don't know if Jane wants to mention a little bit more about the workshop. But thanks very much. Lovely talking to you all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I am really conscious of time. So there is, just to let people know that in the chat there is the workshop, and I think there's going to be a link shared on a PowerPoint in a second. I think everybody has given us a lot of information about their pathway and how different they are, and some of the biases that gender bias that they've had to face as well. And I think these kinds of events where women get to have a voice and to highlight some of the things that have happened are really important. So it's been really great to be part of this, the chat today on, like you said, Gemma, the International Women's Day. And I think it's really important that we highlight some of these issues and these concerns that are still going on, but also some of the good stuff that women in our community and in Liverpool and the Northwest are actually managing to achieve. So again, thank you very much for that. As you can see, there's a link, there's a QR code on the screen now if you want to join the workshop at 1 o'clock today, which will be highlighting some of the issues that have come up today. And we've also got safeguarding as well, if there's anybody have got some issues and concerns that they want to go on to speak to someone. It's a 24-hour helpline. All right. So thank you again. That's been great. It's been lovely to hear from you all.
Thanks, Jane.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Oh, thank you. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
See you. Bye-bye.